you might be wondering why I've invited you all here.
I know. I know where.
This isn't a house, it's an inn, the Copper Fox Inn. Hi!
Oh, we didn't see you.
Oh, hey,
We didn't see you there.
You snuck up on us, listeners. Come on in.
What do you... We've reserved this table.
I quickly put my goatee back on, like the spirit gun is coming out. Like, oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Hey, travelers. Welcome to the Copper Fox Inn, where we review Homebrew for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I'm your host, Thomas the Human Bard. Joining me, as always...
is Mercy, the Tiefling Wizard.
Oh, whoa, okay.
I wanted to enter with pizzazz today.
I did notice that you kicked the door down. When
yeah,
you entered
I also
the
cast
tavern.
Prestidigitation to make this shower of glitter.
And Onog, the half-orc
Thank you.
barbarian.
And Bean, the rock gnome rogue.
Perfect. You really drew out that rogue. Rogue.
It gets longer every time.
We want to thank everybody in the D&D community who makes Homebrew. We're going to be looking at a couple today that we're excited to share with you. So we want you guys to let us know what you think of these homebrews down in the comments below. Tell us which one's your favorite. Today we've got a couple of interesting things. We'll start off with our magic item of the week. And then we'll move on to an interesting race that we've found. Followed by some spells following up with a previous episode. And then we'll end with a somewhat timely Warlock Patron. So let's get started today with our magic item of the week. Ba-ba-da. Bean, what do you brought for us
have
today?
We settled
How-
that is the jingle?
I
That's
mean,
the jingle.
I do
Mercy,
it
how
most
dare
times.
you give in? How dare you? Am I the only one now?
Am I the only man of
one?
integrity?
Because that was the one you did last time, so are we
It was
just
close to that one, at
settling
least.
for that? Okay.
I mean,
Wait. We'll do a
went
different
for it.
take on it, okay? This time,
Okay.
our magic item of the week. Ba-ba-da-boop-bop-bop. Bop. There it is. That's that's this week's
good,
one.
Good.
I'm so angry.
So I was inspired by Shazam, and I really loved the villain in that. And he has like basically this 8-ball that when he was a kid was something that sort of activated and brought him to the old wizard Shazam. And it is something that he keeps with him as sort of like a memento to why he is a villain, basically.
Outlook, not so good.
Outlook, not so good. Anyway,
Very good.
so
Impeccable.
I have brought the magic item 8-ball.
I guess we'd like to thank our guest for
Mark
being
Strong
here
is.
today.
Hi, it's me, Mark Strong, doing my American accent.
Yeah, you can go now. We just need you for that line.
All right. Well, let's check out the movie. Do you have a clip you can roll for the film?
it's a-
I'm sorry, hold on. You are
podcast.
not paying us to promote Shazam. You can get out of
Oh,
here.
you're paying me to be here. I'm Mark Strong. I don't have to deal with this. He left.
I don't
That
know.
is tavern security taking away Mark Strong.
No, that was tavern security taking Mark Strong and drowning him in a pitcher of water.
Yeah, I heard him kind of right at the end there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
was-
What's this magic 8-ball do?
This is gonna be
Ooh,
bad.
we're off to a great start.
So this magic 8-ball comes from D&D Beyond because that's just where I get most of my homebrew stuff.
That's cool. We all have our places about we draw
I
from.
like-
D&D Beyond is a great resource for lots and lots of interesting homebrew and lots of really bad homebrew
Well,
too.
that's the
And
thing.
lots of half-finished pages that were just made
They
and
stopped
forgotten.
typing the stats halfway through.
Yeah. Well, what I like about it is like sometimes you're like trying to search for something on Reddit and you just have to like look in the comments and look everywhere. Whereas D&D Beyond has it all categorized.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you can
that is
search it
nice.
very, very
That's
easily.
very good.
I was considering just going into the magic items and choosing the last one alphabetically, but I didn't do that.
Okay.
So D&D Beyond, this is by the user SJF Zone or something. SJF Zone.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is 8-ball. We make it easy to browse the... That is an advertisement. Okay.
The description reads, try the new Angry Whopper at Burger King. It's weird. That's, man,
It's
interesting.
just so strange.
Oh my gosh.
Does
Does that make us sponsored?
No, sadly
sponsored
not.
by... I'm not going to say the company so we don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
It is a wondrous item. It is uncommon. This is a magical billiards ball that is able to predict the future with moderate accuracy.
Oh boy.
Yep.
I've already got a follow-up question, so keep going, keep going.
Any amount of times per day, someone who holds the ball can ask it a question. The holder rolls an insight check, and passing a DC of 15, the DM answers honestly to the best of their ability, but with their choice between the right and left columns in the following. So there's little columns of answers. A failure, choosing from the center column. So we have, as I see it, yes. Reply hazy, try again.
Oh, okay.
Don't count.
Okay, so it goes through all the
Classic
8-ball
8-ball
answers.
stuff. So
up until guaranteed.
it does add, because it has more, I can't tell you right now,
Sure.
than a normal 8-ball. So of the middle column, which is the like you fail, so it doesn't answer, you reply hazy, try again, ask again later, better not tell you now, and cannot predict now. And I feel like some 8-balls I've seen that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a
They
little
have
bit of an addition.
Weird little fact: the thing inside of an 8-ball is a D20.
It is
Yeah.
a D20.
There's 20 possible answers, so you could theoretically, if you assigned each of them a numerical value, you could make your skill checks with a magic 8-ball.
You actually probably could just like roll.
That's
but
amazing.
The point is it isn't like a real 8-ball where it just says a random thing.
Yeah.
This is
There
sort
is
of
an
a
accuracy.
divination-esque. It's almost more like augury.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what. Okay, so
Yeah.
my follow-up question is this just strictly better augury? Is this just not going to
Yes.
say wheel and woe
It's-
every
it's-
time I ever cast the spell
It's
augury?
spammable augury.
Because it basically has yes, no, and I'm not going to answer that. So after all that, it says, however, for every time it is used in a day after the first,
Sorry. Go ahead.
if you drop the 8-ball, it will crack.
Restart the paragraph.
After all the column stuff, it says, however, for every time it is used in a day after the first time, it gains a cumulative 25% chance of failure,
There we go.
even if they pass the insight check.
So never mind, it's not better augury.
It's
'cause
regular
pretty
augury.
much
It's
the
regular
same.
augury, but
you
it's,
also have
but
to
it's
make a
fun
check.
See, I was
augury.
hoping that it would be just like you can try this as many times as you want because I love the mental flavor image of someone just shaking the 8-ball over and over and over and over
Stop
again.
saying I don't know.
Because you can just roll. I don't know every time. Like there's, it could
Mhm.
happen. I just love that. That's your one character's thing. You go up to the door. Like, should we go through here? Should we go through here? And everyone's like, we're just gonna go through.
Just make a
We're
decision.
not waiting on this.
Anyway, it's a really simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is basically augury, but kind of like what I was saying before, if you don't want to take any kind of casting levels
Yeah,
or
dude.
multi-class,
Yeah.
boom, you got a magic item that's basically augury.
Yeah, there's
Does
no
it
wizard.
require attunement or anything like that?
Yeah, I believe it. I don't know that it says that it does. I would be
Yeah,
surprised.
It would be up
if
near
it-
the
Up at the
top.
top.
Yeah. So if it's not there.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So then anyone could use it. I like that. I mean, if your party doesn't have like a cleric or a warlock or a wizard or whatever, like your fighter just has this as a version of checking on
Yeah.
if this is a good idea or not.
And if it doesn't require attunement, then someone else can be like, let me yes.
I want to try and roll it. Answer unclear. Answer unclear. Answer unclear. This stupid thing. They just throw it off a cliff.
I think that magic items are also a great way to get a flavor when you can't mechanically do it in the class you're in. Because augury, I think, is only for clerics.
I think it's specifically
Knowledge
for clerics, but it
clerics,
can't.
like-
it is a ritual spell and can be taken
Right, by
ritual
but it's
casting.
but it's
and-
generally a cleric spell. 'Cause the idea is that you're
Generally.
asking God.
Yeah.
But like, I think that magic items like that are a great way to add to flavor. If you're like, I want to be a divination wizard, why can't I divine
Why can't I
anything?
cast augury?
Like then
Like,
you can take this
divination wizard
item
have other ways
and
of-
and you can call it a crystal ball or something. I know divination wizard's more about like what you roll and it's a different thing. But if you have a flavor that you want to do of like I'm a fortune teller, warlock or wizard or something,
Could you
then a
pick-
magic item is a great way to like give yourself the flavor that you're missing out of your class.
Totally.
I'm just picturing you going into like a Vistani camp in Curse of Strahd.
Curse of Strahd.
And they're like, yes, I can read your future. And they just have a magic
magic
8-ball
8-ball.
that they're just asking questions to.
I-
This
I-
isn't
works.
good.
Ma'am,
This isn't
I
helpful.
want my money back.
Give me no refunds. They're right on the side.
But think about this. You do this, make this a storytelling device. You go into a place and someone's going to tell you your fortune, and then they pull out an 8-ball, and the party's like, But then they like somehow obtain the 8-ball later, and you find out it
is
a magic
Yeah,
item.
that's true.
And then the things it was saying might be true.
Mhm.
And so that could be cool. I kind of wish, one thing that bothers me about this is that if you fail, it just says a middle thing and doesn't give you an answer. I think it would be cool if there was a slight chance of unreliability to it.
Kind of like augury. Yeah.
Like augury, like a real 8-ball. You
Yeah.
know, like a real 8-ball.
That
Which
must be, real 8-balls are magic
They
and
are
are
inherently
usually
really
right.
magic.
Well, no, that's the thing. Real 8-balls
That's how that
are
guy got the
magical
superpower.
items. They just have a very high level of inaccuracy.
Almost the same probability as if it were random.
Actually, it's less.
Yeah.
It's like I think there was a study that came out a while ago. Citation needed. But that a cat picking random things was more accurate than any weatherman that has ever existed. A cat just walking across a board, poking
But-
at things was just like, this is where it will rain.
But Onog, if you've seen the film Into the Spider-Verse, you know that to get every answer wrong on a test is just as hard as getting every answer right.
That's true.
Proving that you're smart enough to pass. So really, weathermen are much smarter than a cat.
I think
they just
literally-
choose to be wrong for some malevolent reason. What are they planning?
I think what we've just proven is that cats can predict the weather.
Cats, one, can predict the weather. Two, weathermen have some sort of secret cult that they're all part of, and they are bringing some darkness to our land.
They're probably part of a secret society.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
There's a
Bring
chance.
that nut conversation.
I know. I was talking about secret societies earlier, so I'm referencing a joke that none of y'all know.
That's what we like to do. Most of our jokes, we like to just reference what happened off camera.
Remember that thing yesterday, Thomas?
Oh,
You guys did stuff without us?
yeah. Yeah, we did a side quest. Did you
I-
not? No one died.
I was waiting for you guys in here. What?
It was
Oh,
on the
no,
way
we had a
here.
quick
There was
side
like
quest
bandits
we
on
had
the
to,
road.
like,
It was like a
do.
whole. It was
It
like a
was-
blacksmith's daughter. You know, the usual.
Yeah.
The waiters all like looked so sad at me when I left.
There are waiters here. I've never even gotten food.
You just got to know how to shout properly,
Yeah,
and
okay,
then they'll
nice.
bring it to you.
No, the waiters, the people over there
That are
lifting
Who are
waiters.
waiting at the table?
Oh, lifting weights. That's not what.
That's not any of that.
Bean, I hate you so much. You're my favorite. Okay, that's great. That's
the
a good
table of
magic item.
barbarians, you
Yeah,
know?
the waiters.
Why am I over here?
Waiters.
Yeah, you
That,
could
part,
be getting
that table's
swole.
way better.
Yeah.
I'm not making jokes.
They're
you
just
go over there,
being
they're like,
efficient.
"Yo, we're called the waiters because we lift weights." And Odal comes crawling
really
And
thought-
I
down to us.
immediately commit seppuku.
They thought that was like the best joke they'd ever, like the most creative name.
Let me just give you this scene in every high school movie. Look, over there at that table, that's the waiters. They don't hang out at the nerd table. That's this one.
Hey.
We need to do that for our listeners so they know what our tavern looks like and what all the clicks are.
Over there, those are the bards. They're playing music.
They're all playing different songs at the same time. It's hell.
Oh yeah.
But it's also
Every time bards get together, dude.
it's that classic one too where it's like in Mean Girls, not only some of them are playing music, but the rest are all just making out with like each other and the table.
One is making out with the lute, like
Yeah,
definitely.
just, like, they're
but the
all-
lute is making out back with it. It's a magical sentient
Yeah,
lute.
yeah, yeah. They actually
That's
have a
going to
beautiful
this
relationship.
mystical high school we're all at, apparently.
Welcome
by
to the high school AU of our.
Oh yeah, by
of
the
our
way,
podcast.
we're all high school age.
Definitely.
Yep.
How old do you have to be in high school?
For gnomes, you have to be like 75.
Yeah, fair enough.
High school
Tieflings?
goes on a
I
really
don't know how
long
tieflings
time.
age.
I
haven't
think
checked.
tieflings
Tieflings
are
are
standard
regular
human.
age, yeah.
Yep.
Orcs?
Half orcs, we get the
They
we get the
like
short
die
straw.
young.
We die at like 65.
Yeah.
Aw, you
We
live,
do not make it to 70.
live fast, die young.
Live
Half
fast, die
orcs.
young,
That's
baby.
what you have tattooed on your back, right?
Yeah. And several advertisements for stores.
For the angry whopper.
Yeah.
Great. That's a thank you for that wonderful magic
Yeah,
item.
anyway,
Dean. That might have been, even though we went off on horrible tangents, that still might have been the most efficient magic item we've ever covered.
Boom. Efficiency.
Done.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's no art for that or anything, so just
Yeah.
like put up a stock photo of an
No,
8-ball.
I won't put one up, but I need you to all imagine it in your minds.
Oh.
Listeners, close your eyes. Imagine that I had done the work to edit this and put in a JPEG of an 8-ball.
See, I was imagining
If
like
you really want to get the immersive experience, you can Google image search 8-ball, and it'll be the same.
Yeah. You can make some rattling noises.
make sure safe search is on, because that might bring up some weird stuff.
Oh, yeah. True.
yeah. Anyway, so
I
that's
like-
the magic 8-ball.
I like the idea of like a Necronomicon style like magic tome that you can like search through for all the right words, but there is like a safe search switch. So the wizard's like, I could
Oh,
find the
man.
right spell, but I got to make sure safe search is on because you don't want to see some of the spells in this book.
This one just turns you inside out. It doesn't do anything else.
It's very, very useful in
I don't know
certain
how the person
situations.
who discovered this spell wrote it down.
It is a very wet page.
Oh, big yikes,
Let's move
everyone.
on.
I have to die now.
It's okay. You'll be all right. It'll
No,
be okay.
I'm never gonna be
I
okay.
cast healing word on you. You're fine.
Well, now
That's
I'm
what
more
that does.
healthy, but I still feel sad.
I cast psychological healing word on you.
Yeah.
It's a homebrew spell. Deal with it.
Oh no! What have you brought?
Well, I have brought a proud and powerful race.
Yes, a race for us.
I'm not going to describe what, I'm going to just read the forward paragraph.
Before you do, let's sum up for our viewers, in case you haven't listened to an episode before. The races that Onog has brought previously. Let's see. Weretarask. Draconic angel with retractable wings. And then the Aquiqui.
Yeah, I brought a quick
And some buggy boys.
Oh, and some bug boy.
Yeah.
So, along that line, have those in your mind for comparison's sake. What have you brought this
All right,
week?
so I'm just going to read the forward paragraph. It's a quote from a member of this race.
Okay.
So, I'm going to be very serious. Fabric, is that all I am to you? My blood may be colorful and glittering, but I bleed nonetheless. My people have long struggled to be taken seriously. It is why so many of us turn to our faith, our creator, the Hand. It is a force within all of us that guides our actions and speaks through all Muppet-born.
Yes! You didn't do the right voice, though.
No, I just because I wanted to be a reveal. The war of my people is far from over, and it will be the bloodiest yet.
Oh, no.
Wait,
over
No,
there
no,
in the
no,
corner,
I'm not done.
Oh.
Waka waka. Fuzzy Whizzle, Plumpy Tops, Hand of the Grouch.
Oh my
Hand
gosh.
of the...
Wait, over there in the corner, I think I see one of the Muppet boards.
Wait.
Hey, come on over here, buddy. Say hi.
Oh, me?
I thought we killed
Yeah, buddy.
I thought we killed him.
Someone must... This must be an undead Grover. Grover, I have noticed that your right arm's just a skeleton arm.
Well,
The fur's all gone.
yes, it is now just a string of beads
That's what your bones are.
with a stick.
A pipe cleaner.
It is a...
I picture like a chest cavity, and instead of ribs poking out, it's just a series of pipe cleaners.
Yes.
It's just like that's just in the same place.
I
So-
am now a hollow shell of the monster I once was.
I thought you were gonna say you're now a hollow, like from Dark Souls. Like you've begun hollowing into madness.
Grover got good. Guys.
Yes.
All right,
Grover got
Grover.
good.
You gotta go lay back down in your casket, okay?
Yeah, Grover, can you go back into the runic circle we keep you in?
Okay.
From escaping?
Could you bring me some water, maybe?
Do you need water to survive now that you're
I
undead?
was just going to spit it at you.
Yeah, no,
Well,
the
no.
answer would be no then. Get out of here.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Miss Piggy. All right.
Yeah, man, Grover sounds a lot more like Miss Piggy these days.
It must be
Is
the
that
undead.
Yeah, is Miss Piggy undead, and as he's becoming more like
He's
her?
just becoming more and
Yeah.
more. So I was obviously inspired by our previous encounter with Grover to look this up. So this is the Muppet-born race. Fuzzy and warm, a proud and silly race. Muppet-born are chaotic creatures known for their innate magical abilities. Born appearing as small balls of cloth. By the way, this is going a hard left turn into body horror.
You just made me picture a Muppet giving birth.
Yeah. All right, Thomas is broken. Moving on.
This
So-
is giving me some happy time murders.
So no, this isn't the
Vibes.
worst part. That was the beginning. Now we go forward
Okay, so
to horror.
they're born as a cotton ball.
They're balls of cloth.
We may edit this for content for children.
They
so-
quickly develop into creatures that resemble humans, animals, and even monsters. But that doesn't make them evil. Easily spotted by their colorful furs, most Muppet-born who live outside their clans, or, quote, streets,
Oh my gosh.
frequently find themselves uninvited from proper civilization due to their odd habits. But really, is it a party without a Muppet-born swinging from a chandelier? So,
I want to swing.
Don't, please don't.
get him out of here.
No, how did you get up there? Get back in your circle.
Someone get him down.
This is a fun chandelier.
Okay,
Oh,
I cast banishment on Grover. He's gone.
All right.
He is from another dimension,
He
so
failed
he's
to
gonna
save.
stay there
Yeah,
for
he-
forever.
Forever.
He gets sent back to the street that he came from.
I'm
All
not
right,
cleaning
so
that up.
Muppet-born traits. Ability scores increase. Your constitution and dexterity increase by 1. They are
Condex.
tough
Okay.
and they are quick.
I'm surprised they're tough, but sure.
I mean, think of all the slapstick.
All the slapstick, they get smacked in the face all the
And
time
they
with
can take
boards
a
and their
punch.
faces crinkle in.
Well,
like,
and you think about, they're like, oh, this puppet, this is the original puppet. It's been on this show for like 40 years.
I will say, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm far more familiar with like Sesame Street Muppet than the actual Muppet show itself.
Yeah, you haven't even
I've
seen
watched.
Muppet Treasure Island,
Yeah,
which is
I've
a
never
great
seen
movie.
all of Muppet Treasure Island, so I am less familiar with that. So
yeah,
in
Gonzo's-
Sesame Street, there's much less slapstick than you would imagine.
I would imagine so,
Teaching
yeah.
children the alphabet doesn't involve a lot of like punching people off of boats. You know what I mean?
To bring it back to Muppet Treasure Island, Gonzo has constitution out the wazoo. I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
tell you
Oh,
what.
yeah.
Fair enough.
The drawn and quartered scene. Oh,
He keeps starfish in his pants, like, just in case.
Right. Recreationally,
he gets put
if
on
that
like
tells
a
you
torture
something about
machine
Gonzo.
and he loves it.
Recreational Starfish.
All right.
Is the name of my new experimental
Yeah,
band. that
Gonzo
I've-
is-
Recreational.
Definitely canonically freaky.
Gonzo
That's all I
is
gotta
freaky.
say.
What's
Watch Muppet
Gonzo's
Treasure
voice
Island
sound
and try
like?
and tell me
His
otherwise.
girlfriend is a chicken.
Isn't Gonzo? Doesn't he
Yeah.
sound like this?
Yeah.
Is he sort of like a high pitched, sort of nasally guy?
He kind of gets a little high pitched, but
Well,
in the earlier times, he's a
Gonzo
little
kind of
more-
has almost like a smoker's.
Yeah, like
rasp.
early
Yeah, sort
Muppet
of a
movies.
If we could combine both of these voices you're doing,
We could get a
we'd be
Gonzo.
getting there.
Yeah, we'd get a Gonzo. Too bad we can't do that. All right. So at birth, like I said, they resemble small balls of colorful fabric
Yeah,
with
yeah.
googly eyes, but quickly sprout limbs and mature at roughly double the speed of humans.
Okay.
The average Muppet-born lives for 60 to 90 years. However, some have lived well past 300 years.
Excellent.
Some age
I don't think
eternity.
Muppets
Why?
have literally existed
Guys,
in our world for
no.
more than
As a gnome.
30
30
years.
years.
So are the puppet born
50
hollow,
years.
or
The
are they
Muppet-born?
the Muppet?
Well, we'll
born
get to that.
hollow?
We'll get to
Okay.
that. So, their alignment imbued with sporadic energy, Muppet-born often live on the
Checks
chaotic end of the spectrum.
That's fair.
Yep.
Size as varied as
With a
the
notable
What,
exception.
what about
the
yeah,
Admiral.
Sam the Eagle?
Yeah.
Sam the Eagle. Yeah,
Lawful
you are all
paladin.
weirdos.
He's lawful.
He's
I would
lawful,
say-
lawful.
I
There
would-
is nothing
I would
else.
say,
on the Z axis.
He is
you
lawful
know?
American.
yeah, I would say Kermit is actually a pretty good example of like a true neutral, like neutral good.
Yeah,
borderline,
neutral good.
Where he's
Yeah.
just like
I'm just trying to get the show running,
He's just
guys.
like, I just want the show to happen, and I don't care about any of the other
He's like, everyone,
nonsense.
please stop.
Poor. I remember watching old episodes of the Muppet Show where Gonzo literally unleashes bulls on the stage.
Miss Piggy is definitely chaotic
I like the
neutral.
idea of like a 3-dimensional cube of alignment in which you can be lawful, and that's like Sam the Eagle, and chaotic, which is the what's his,
Gonzo.
no the monster.
Oh,
Oh,
monster.
monster, yeah.
Oh,
Animal,
Sweetums?
animal,
No, what's
Animal.
animal?
Oh,
Animal's the
Animal
name.
is
Yeah.
chaotic.
Animal's just chaotic, and he just nothing. There's no rules, no law, no gods, no kings.
Yep. That's the thing. Okay. So, as varied as the thoughts in their heads, the smallest Muppet born rests just shy of 2 feet tall, while some are large enough to sink even the sturdiest of rowboats. So, it also doesn't give a size category, so it's just you're whatever size you want to be, I
What's
guess.
the name of the giant Sweetums?
Sweetums
Yeah,
is the big
yeah.
guy.
I mean, there's also like
Big birds.
Big Bird's huge.
Snuffleupagus.
Snuffleupagus is big.
Yeah. A lot of the Sesame Street ones actually is where they started getting into the bigger Muppet creatures.
Because they had like a big set.
The weird aliens like yep. Aliens are like human sized. Like
Yeah,
pretty tall.
they're 2 people each.
Yeah.
There's someone controlling the mouth and then someone controlling the hands, kind of a thing.
Yep.
But yeah, so
Alright.
so speed. So this is my first critique, is that it doesn't give any size
Doesn't give a
parameters. It's just they're as big as whatever.
It's already moving into 6th edition. No sizes anymore.
No
people.
sizes anymore. Everything is just all the same size or nothing is. Speed, your base shuffling speed is 30 feet. You just
Well, I mean, because
they
'Cause-
don't walk.
yeah, because
they
when it
shuffle.
shows their legs walking, it's always sort of just like sliding along the ground because they're
It's
like
almost like
obviously
that's how
holding it
puppets
from
work.
above. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, on that note,
Or it's like they are weirdly moving very smooth, but their like heads are bobbing
Uh-huh.
like really, really hard.
Yeah.
on that note, always obscured, no matter how you look at them. A Muppet Born's bottom half is always out of view.
What? There's
It's-
always a strategically placed something.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
man.
said that even when one stands in the middle of a field, the earth will rise up to meet them. For this reason, they are always considered to have half cover and receive a permanent +2 bonus to AC.
Yes.
I mean,
What?
it's just basically they sort of have a natural armor.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of love that. It's like in Muppet movies, you never see their bottom half generally.
Now, I would also argue,
That's so funny.
like
once again, the
sitting,
wording is a little weird on this. Cover only gives you armor class for ranged attacks. So melee attacks should technically still, but it says +2 AC,
Yeah,
so
whatever.
that's
It's
better
because
than
the
any
earth
Warforged.
rises.
Okay,
defend
hold
them.
up. We need to dive straight into this horror concept real quick. So when you were saying half of their bodies concealed, I now realize what you meant was that like the bottom half of the puppet.
Yeah.
I thought you were implying that there is a human being considered the quote unquote bottom half of the creature that grows out of the bottom that's always underground with the Muppet above being a sort of lure.
Oh no.
Oh
I'm-
my god.
Yeah, right? That's what I like popped into my head.
Like the finger of
You can-
Cthulhu.
Yeah, you can
Like-
never see the bottom half of them because it is like a humanoid,
unknowable thing.
an unknowable creature that
The
is always
puppeteer.
the puppeteer beneath the ground.
The
concealed.
puppeteer is one of the worst. Like that is such a spooky horror name.
Yeah.
I'm a puppeteer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're also horrifying.
Okay.
Sorry, continue.
No, you're good.
Let's
On
all
that note,
leave
the
that
hand.
anglerfish out of our minds now.
No, it will stay there forever. You will think of it years from now.
Just a
Guys,
mouth
there are
underneath
reasons we had
Sesame
to get rid
Street.
of Gonzo. Okay.
Gonzo, you mean Grover?
Oh, we also got rid of Gonzo.
Gonzo, we
weeks
got rid
ago.
of. Yeah, he was exorcised years ago.
Muppet-born mythology speaks of the hand inside each of them.
Okay.
They innately know the cantrip Mage Hand.
So
However,
there is the human growing out of them.
Well, no, it's just spiritual.
No,
but it's the cantrip Mage Hand because it's the puppeteer's other hand.
Yeah,
moving
there's-
things
That's
around.
very
you are
good.
right. There is a human being growing out.
Do they
of
all
them.
have just a little stick coming down from their wrist?
It's
Do
just
they-
always
Do
just
they say
limp.
things like "I feel it deep in my hand," meaning like their heart?
Their soul.
Yeah, that's probably what they
with
say.
every fiber of my hand.
However, okay, there's
That's so bad.
This is awful, and I hate you, Ona.
We need to put a body horror warning
hey,
on
you
this episode.
you made me
I know.
listen with my own ears the Sonic ones. I'm giving this back to you.
That's fair.
All right, so
Yeah.
then this also gets kind of weird in the wording. They innately know the cantrip Mage Hand. However, the floating hand can only lift up to 5 pounds and move up to 5 feet per character level. So I didn't know that they could lift more than 5 pounds. I'm pretty sure that was already the
I think
stipulation.
that
but I
was
think this
already,
is
yeah.
also
Maybe 10.
implying.
It's 10
10
pounds.
pounds.
Is it 10
Oh.
pounds?
Mage
Okay,
Hand currently
so
is 10 pounds. Unless they're referencing an older edition in which it was less.
Yeah.
But
for some
But I
previous
reason.
think
versions
the
of Mage Hand
implication
were less.
is that it is the puppeteer's other hand.
Does it grow as they level up?
Well, that's the thing. Is as they level up, the Mage Hand can reach out farther and farther.
Yes,
and move.
because the Eldritch horror puppeteer entity
The arm just
grows
gets
in size.
longer.
Oh my word! What
Guys,
is this?
the long-
the,
grandma.
the monster at the
No.
bottom of the well from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina
Oh,
of
no,
Time.
the
with
toilet
the
guy.
hands that come up out of the ground.
Oh, I was thinking about a different,
No,
equally
you were
horrifying
thinking of the
thing.
hand from Majora in the
Well,
toilet.
he's also an ocarina, but
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry, you guys aren't getting these
No, I
references.
don't know
Alright.
Zelda stuff.
I'll put up the image and you'll regret that I
Okay.
did. You're all welcome for
Oh
this.
no!
Yeah, there's that.
What
That's
the
you. That's the thing. Those
frickin'
are its hands.
Frick!
Yep.
Okay.
yep.
That's so bad.
Those are
It
its
looks
arms.
like aspen or birch tree.
That's
but it's
back
like
when-
No,
arms.
that's flesh.
Yeah, I
I
know.
hate
That's
it.
that's back when in the 90s when
This is-
children's entertainment required a strong horror
Yeah.
element.
What the
This
heck?
is its head turned sideways. It has an expandable jaw.
I am so furious that I had to be a child in the 90s when they were like, brave little toaster, you gonna have nightmares about fireman clowns for the rest of your life? Most definitely. Jumanji, horror.
Okay, so the next ability, actually calling back to does Grover need water? Nom nom nom. Muppet-born absorb the energy from food without ever having to swallow it.
Okay,
Just
the
Cookie
cookies
Monster
shoot
just-
out of their mouth. Okay.
Yeah.
It just falls out.
All right.
So does that mean it can be reused by another member of the party?
Watching a Muppet Born eat, though, does like inexplicably bring so much joy.
Could a series of Muppet Born in a party all share one good berry per day?
Because they're just
No,
And
because
they
the
just spit it out
the
to the next guy.
nutrients is gone. It's just it
I
would
suppose,
be like,
yeah.
they've absorbed it.
You know, it would be
Interesting.
like saying I took a strawberry and I like sucked all the juice out of it and then I gave you the
Banicula.
yes. Oh my gosh, Banicula!
Hardcore deep cut banicula reference.
Man, the Banicula fandom coming
Yeah.
out.
I never understood.
after 95
Was Banicula supposed to be a bad guy or was it a good guy? I never understood
No,
the
it
concept.
That's sort of a vague like horror thing of the cat and the dog being like, is this
What
a
the heck?
monster? And the dog's like, no, he's just a bunny. And the cat's like, I have my suspicions.
And then it like
That's it. That's the
Wait,
whole story.
we've
It's just
all
the whole
read
thing.
Banicula?
Oh, we all went to elementary school.
Okay, I'm just saying.
I was
like,
thoroughly confused
There
and
are
bothered by the
multiple
fact that
sequels.
there was
Yeah.
no
Oh, yeah,
resolution.
Me too.
I read the second Banicula.
Oh, I
I
read
did
all three
too.
sequels.
I only read the second one.
There are multiple, and they're pretty good.
All right, cloth and color. All Muppet-born know the mending cantrip, and once per long rest, it can be used to heal 1d8 hit points.
That's amazing.
Whoa.
This increases to twice per long rest at 5th level, 3 times at 10th level, 4 times at 14th level, and
That's
5
powerful.
times at 18th level.
Yeah, they're a god
But
race.
Cure Wounds
It does
isn't
take
even
a
that
minute to
strong.
cast. It takes a
But-
minute to cast
Yeah,
mending,
no,
so you
it's
can't
not.
do it.
It's
in
not an
combat.
in combat, but it says. The wording on that's weird.
It's
like,
weird.
They can use it on themselves once per rest, or if another person tried to cast Mending on them, would it no longer
It just says,
heal
and
them?
it can be used to heal 1d8 hit points.
Yeah, that wording's a little loosey-goosey.
Also, mending is in quotations.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's in quotation.
Because, like, I'm wondering if your whole party has Mending, can you all in one row, like,
Heal.
cast it
On
1d8,
one
1d8, 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 but then none of you can do it again until the next long rest. But, like,
I don't know. It's
I
an
don't know.
interest, like a lot of the things that come before our table here at the inn. It's a very interesting and cool idea, and the wording just kind of gets lost.
Semantics are so important.
Yeah,
in
it's so
D&D.
hard. It's the hardest part, but it's the most important part.
Yeah, formatting.
Yeah.
Also, there are 3 sub-races.
Oh my goodness. How long is this race?
We're deep diving. Kids.
Okay.
We also have interrupted a lot.
No, I just
Alright.
meant, like, we've already gone through, like, 5 separate abilities, and now we're getting into sub-races?
Each sub-race only has one ability.
So
Okay,
which is
okay,
the slippery and which is the
Yeah.
chubby?
Is it chubby?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Slippery and Chubby are the two
Was
penguins.
it slippery and chubby? Okay,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
All
We're
right,
talking
so-
about penguins.
Yeah, Slippery's always the
Oh, yeah, gotta
charismatic
clarify
dexterity
that.
one.
And
Chubby
then
is
Chubby's
always the
the tank.
constitution strength one.
All right, so that'll be very evident by these abilities, and for some weird reason, all of the sub-race abilities only start at 3rd level, even if none of them.
Wait, racial abilities that start at a level?
Well, there are some levels racial abilities like Aasimar. Their
Yeah.
angel ability only
Okay,
kicks in
yeah,
at a
that's
certain point.
fair.
That's an
Yeah,
exception,
But
though.
some of these,
but Asmar aren't real.
some of these don't. What?
I don't believe in Asmar. That's a character choice
Well, I
I'm
have a
making right
friend.
now.
One of my best friends is an Aasimar.
Sure. I'll believe it when I see it.
But
You have
some of
friends?
these don't seem to warrant that. It's just it's kind of weird. But yeah, I'll get into it. So first is the Hand of the Monster. They get +1 charisma.
Okay.
And their ability is called Yay! At 3rd level, you can perform a mighty roar of the monster, which is what that sound is, apparently.
Okay.
You have to swing your arms like
You have
above
to.
your head.
All
I need
right.
to watch a Muppet movie.
As a
man.
bonus action, once per short rest, this gives you a +5 bonus to the next attack. This
Whoa.
gives a +5 bonus to the next attack each of your allies within 60 feet make,
Oh, okay.
Woo!
as long as they do so in the next minute.
So it's
That's
This is-
big.
That's-
Hi, welcome to 3.5 edition.
Yeah.
that's sort of a glamour bard-esque.
Yeah, just kind of like a blast
Giving
out
a
of like
plus
helping.
is weird instead of
Yeah.
disadvantage.
Additionally,
That's also
any
a lot.
ally that makes a wisdom or charisma saving throw in the next minute does so with advantage. So basically, for
That's
the
like
rest of
circle of
combat,
power or something.
you just kind of
Yeah.
you just paladin blast everyone to
Yep.
be better at the next attack, and they're better at wisdom
And they're
char-
just
charisma.
so overcome with the.
All right, next is Hand of the Grouch,
Oh man.
+1 strength,
Okay.
So this is the
and the
chubby.
ability. This is probably the chubby,
I feel like they need to have armor.
We need to be careful about
They need
these
to have trash can
terminologies.
armor.
the chunky.
This is the
Chonky.
chonky.
All right. The ability is called Garbage Can, not Garbage Cannot.
Oh my god.
At 3rd level, you learned to fortify yourself amongst the lowest of society and gain proficiency in medium and heavy armor.
Oh, it is armor. There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Additionally, you do not make stealth checks at disadvantage while wearing heavy armor if moving at half speed or slower.
Because Grover's
Okay.
always hiding in the
Oscar.
trash.
Yeah. okay.
Oscar.
Oscar. Yeah.
Oscar
I
also.
meant, we've talked so many names.
Finally, you gain advantage on stealth checks if blending in with filth or garbage.
That's good.
So,
We all know my favorite Muppets: Oscar, Gonzo, Grover, Groucho Marx. You know, all the names that I'm thinking of right now that I'm trying
don't
not
forget
to
Curly.
say. Curly, Mo.
it's one of those weird things where it's like it's weird enough when your subclass randomly gives you proficiency in something that you don't have
Yeah.
earlier. It's even weirder when your race gives you proficiency
Yeah.
randomly 10 minutes after you were born.
Your genetics. You'd have
It
to
kicks
almost.
in.
You'd have to almost flavor it as like a metamorphosis or
Yeah.
something. Like, you disappear into a
Well,
trash cocoon
when
and you
the
come
Muppets
out as
emerged
a
as
Oscar
Oscar
the
the
Grouch.
Grouch.
it does say that they grow super quickly, though. So,
Question
I
mark.
mean,
I know that there's a land of grouches.
what?
I know that
There
there's a
is
land of grouches. That's been
Grouchland.
canonically established. Are there lands of all the other kinds, or is it just grouches?
I think it's just.
I've never
grouches.
seen a double of
Gonzo-
any other kind of Muppet.
Gonzo
Gonzo
is a space
sort
alien.
of an alien.
Except Elmo's dad appears in a coloring book, and he looks like
Coloring.
Telly, but he's red. This is
What?
canon. This is real.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
Elmo has a dad in the coloring book, and then there was like a. I think Elmo's dad might appear in like one of the other like books that they
But for
released.
some reason, he's never around on Sesame Street. Draw your own
How old
conclusion,
is
listener.
Elmo? Is
How-
Elmo a
Elmo
child?
is 3.
Elmo's a babo?
And
I
as
guess
we've
that's how
just
he
learned,
relates to the
but
Bambinos.
as we just learned, they matured twice, so he's 6 essentially in human years.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But he has obviously
That
had a
tracks.
curse on him because he's been 3 for like a very long
For
time.
40 years. So, additionally, how does Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared
Fit into all of this?
Work into this.
I don't want to think about it too much.
All
How does
right.
Mr. Noodle fit
How
into
does
all
Mr.
this?
Noodle-
Is
All
he the eldritch being behind all of this?
All right, so, and there's one more subrace, the Hand of the Animal.
Oh.
One of us is the ability name.
Very
Chaotic. as we
Many
discussed.
Muppet-born resemble animals from birth. They have advantage on animal handling checks with these animals and can communicate with them. At 3rd level, they can communicate with similar types of animals and can also cast Beast Bond once per short rest or long rest without using a spell slot.
What's the name of the little rat? The little
Rizzo.
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 So he'd have like an association with other rats.
Like vermin.
Yeah.
Hey, what's it doing? Because
Like
he
they-
talks like that, right?
He does.
That's
He
You
what
does
are
like,
not far off, but you're wrong.
He's
he
doing something
basically
like this.
Pied Piper's rats. As
Yeah.
But
At a certain point.
you could argue that if you were a rat puppet, that you could also communicate maybe with like squirrels or like
Similar kinds,
Similar
yeah. Rodentia.
House
That
squirrels.
sentence out of context.
any sentence out of
Have you listened to
context.
this podcast?
Even
It's a
in
nightmare.
context.
One could argue that if you are a rat puppet, you could also communicate with
Squirrels,
squirrels.
perhaps. Mice, other rodentia.
You said it so seriously. I was serious.
It's
I
very
take
good.
this.
I feel like of all the people here, I take this podcast the most seriously.
Man, BJ Hypes, I didn't know you were so good at Muppet stuff.
I have several critiques, but okay.
Nope, this is a perfect flawless race that can't be fixed in any way.
But yeah, so it's a race of varying size that always has +2 AC no matter what. And
Get a free healing cantrip.
and some of them can just have heavy armor no matter what race they pick.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
And yet don't have any downsides for sneaking and heavy
Nah.
armor.
No.
Okay, guys,
Well,
now we
Even
have
if
to,
they are the size of a house.
now we need to think of like either famous D&D or D&D-esque stories,
think how
and
funny
you
and cute
replace
that
a
is.
key
That would be very
character
funny.
with their puppet counterpart.
Yeah.
No!
Curse of Strahd.
Uh,
Strahd is the count.
No!
Curse
Love.
of the Count? Is
Curse
that
of
just
the
it?
Count.
Curse of the Count. It's just no. That would be glorious, though. It's just Sesame Street, but the party is all like real people.
Yeah.
That have just
You're-
been trapped in some subdimension of Sesame Street.
No, you're a campaign, and you guys are all the token human actors in like a Muppet movie.
No.
I'm Michael Caine.
You're Michael Caine.
So instead of Horde of the Dragon Queen, it's just Horde of Oscar the Grouch.
Yes.
Oh, actually,
Oscar
can I be
is
Tim
Tiamat.
Yeah, you can be Tim Curry.
Thank you.
I'll be Michael Caine.
I guess that leaves me as Robin Williams.
Ooh.
I don't know the references being made here. I'm Elmo.
Pick a famous person in the 90s they were on Sesame Street.
Dan Aykroyd.
Actually, I think you missed. I think you somehow missed. Like Patrick Stewart. Come on.
Oh, Patrick Stewart.
That's an easy
Did.
You
one.
can be Patrick, yeah.
Patrick
I want to
Stewart.
be. Yeah, I definitely want to be
Yes,
Tim Curry.
number 1. This is my
Long
Patrick
John
Stewart voice.
Silver.
Robin Williams, what do you have to say on the matter?
Well, I don't like to speak ill of the dead, so let's move on.
And let's just see how many times we can get Grover on this podcast before everyone that we've worked so hard to accrue as a subscriber just abandons
Just
us.
immediately
yeah,
leaves.
we'll have to get him back from the plane
If
from whence he came.
If we get let's pick a big goal. If we get 1 new subscriber, Grover will never appear on this podcast. We promise
And
you.
if we get 2 new subscribers, he'll come back next week. So
Oh,
you gotta.
and
this
it's
is
every
sort of
other-
like a.
it's every other
Yeah,
one.
if it's an even number.
Like, guys, what if it's like you all hate Grover, but for some reason
There's
like,
a subset of the community that loves Grover.
loves the Grover voice, and they're just like,
Yeah.
keep bringing Grover back.
That
Please,
means that it's
more
going to be
Grover.
a war between the
They
factions,
just wanna replace
and they'll just
Dean
have to
with
keep giving
Grover.
us more subs because they're like, no, it's not a number.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And taking away a sub doesn't count.
Yeah.
And I'm just throwing it out there. I've made multiple accounts, and I've just commented like, y'all should bring back Grover. It's just all.
It's
Bean.
all you. It's all Bean.
It's all Bean.
The whole Grover fandom is Bean.
The whole Grover fandom.
Bean
is
wearing
Bean.
different hats.
You are in a secret society, the Grover fandom.
Aw,
There it is.
there we go.
Actually,
Thanks, Onog,
There's
for
a whole
bringing...
Facebook group dedicated exclusively to Grover.
I would imagine.
Well, I'm not talking
I would
actual
imagine
Grover
you can
fandom.
get all sorts of
The-
Grover
this
paraphernalia
version
on
of
the
Grover.
internet.
The Grover that lives at this inn.
The undead
that
zombie
fandom.
The
Grover.
undead zombie
Oh,
Grover. That's
the lore lore is growing.
That sort of sounds like
Oh, yeah,
Bean,
dude.
and more
The
more
podcast
sounds
lore.
like Miss Piggy.
We got the waiters over there. We got
Undead Grover in his rune circle.
circle. Well, he was.
Yeah.
He has in essence been
Yeah,
cast
the
The
lore.
ring circle is still there just in case he comes back.
Yeah.
In case anyone is wanting to draw the Copper Fox in and needs a reference.
Yeah. Oh, Nog, thank you for your homebrew.
We're really building lore in this episode.
Mercy.
You need the lore!
Hey.
Mercy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you brought
Despite everything.
What have you
yeah.
brought this week?
So in episode 7, This TARDIS Empty, yeet! I reviewed some ice spells by user Seething Ginger on Reddit, and they were great. They were really fun and interesting. We had good discussion about them. If you haven't heard that episode, I definitely recommend listening to it.
Avalanche, dope spell.
Yeah, really cool. So I contacted Seething Ginger, and they let me know that they've made more homebrew elemental spells specifically. You can find them on Reddit. Go upvote them on the D&D homebrew page. It's user seething_ginger, and they'll be linked in the description. And so I wanted to talk specifically today. I was really interested in the elemental air spells. So it says Skyborn homebrew elemental air spells for 5e. So these are all a work in progress. Seething Ginger is like doing new drafts of it and updating them, and they have specifically asked the community and also us specifically for feedback, which we are super flattered and super happy to give. So Seething Ginger was going through each of the elements and saying, if you want to be a wizard and you want to be an elemental wizard, there, like with many of the elements, there aren't really enough
There's
to
a lot
feel
of
like
fire spells.
Yeah.
There's like 3 ice spells.
Right.
There's like a couple of earth spells. And then you
Mhm.
start really falling off. You
Yeah.
like create and destroy water. Shape
What?
water.
Tidal Wave.
Okay. Yeah.
But it does start to feel like you are super limited, and it's difficult to really fully flesh out a specific element, which is a vibe I think a lot of people want to go for. Very Avatar, which I'm a huge fan of. And so I want to look at air spells today. So with air spells, there is mobility and like you sort of becoming light as air, but there is also a lot of area control as well as more direct attack. So there is good variety and good balance there.
Variety, but they still keep the theme of whatever element
Right.
they are pulling
Yeah,
from.
They all feel like air, which is really cool. So
Which was the spell that they specifically mentioned?
Arctic Tempest.
Okay.
And this is in the description on Reddit. They said that
Ooh.
specifically they needed help kind of figuring that one out.
This spell's like 300 pages
yeah,
long.
Yeah, that's a big one. Before we
do it.
get to that, I just want to like kind of touch on a few of these
Okay.
that I think are
Okay.
really
A couple
fun.
other ones.
Yeah. So with Constricting Currents is a 6th level conjuration spell. I'm not going to go into all the details on these, but it's cool. It's sort of, it creates like a spell to like bind people with, but
Okay.
with like currents of air.
You're like stuck in
Oh,
it.
that's
Yeah.
very in the Wheel of Time fantasy novel series by Robert Jordan. They often will bind people with basically ropes made of air.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think that feels really flavorful. I think Howling Gale is very cool. So that's a 5th level conjuration spell, casting time 1 action, range 120 feet, and it's concentration, and it basically lasts for all of combat. And you like summon a shrieking, howling wind, and people have to make a saving throw or else they are deafened.
Oh, okay.
And it's really
Yikes.
cool area control. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a sense of kind of the variety. There's also like you can throw people with the air. You can basically make you and your party kind of fly. Like so there's
Yeah.
lots of
The
cool
howling
air
wind.
control stuff. I did want to read one of my favorite ones here before we get into the one that we really want to dive into, which is the last one on this list here, Defenestrating Spear.
Okay.
Defenestrate is a great word that is to throw out of a window. So this is 4th level conjuration.
It only works on 2nd-story buildings.
Casting time of 1 action, range 120 feet, components VSM, and a small gray pearl worth at least 50 GP. Concentration up to 1 minute.
The spell does not consume the pearl.
No. So, when you cast this spell, you create a violently swirling sphere of air. As a bonus action, you can make the sphere travel up to 30 feet per round and strike a creature or object you indicate. That creature must make a Constitution saving throw. If it fails the save, it takes 3d6 bludgeoning damage from the wind, as it is swept up by the sphere and driven 1d8 times 10 feet into the air, dropping 1d6 squares from their original position, which that
Ooh.
wording...
It's a little bit of 4th
Yeah.
edition. 4th
Yeah.
edition referenced like the playmat a lot.
Right, so that is not typically how that's worded.
Like 1d6 5 feet.
Yeah, you would
yeah.
want to specify that distance there to make it fit 5e, which these are specifically meant for 5e.
Yep.
So just a little correction there, but
But we get what you mean.
yeah, we get what it means, but just, for wording. from their original position in a random direction and taking falling damage as normal. If a window is within range, the subject is automatically thrown in that direction.
I know it says window, but I did read it as widow really quick.
It throws it at a widow.
If there is
It
a
only
widow,
works on second-story buildings with single mothers.
With single
if
window.
there is no window, a widow will suffice.
Will suffice.
But yeah, if there is a window, they are automatically thrown in that direction.
Okay, that's cool though. So they're not automatically thrown out of the window, but they might be.
It depends.
If
yeah.
they reach it.
Okay, so that's
Yeah,
cool.
if some obstacle prevents the subject creature, I think, would you just say like the target creature? Yeah. From reaching its expelled height, it takes 1d6 points of damage for every 10 feet of movement it was unable to complete. So it's like that
Woof.
potential energy, you know.
Okay.
So that a creature
Basically, you're
hurled.
crashing that hard into
Yeah.
them.
It's like you're falling
I
from
think,
that height or
I
whatever.
think that
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
It
I think
does.
that's reasonable.
Lots of physics.
So that a creature hurled 50 feet up in a room with a 20-foot ceiling would take 3d6 points of
Oh,
damage from
an
the
example.
impact. Yeah. Then take 2d6 points of damage when it falls back to the ground. The sphere can affect a maximum of one creature or object per round, and winks out if it exceeds the spell's range.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's a nice little...
I do love, because
Chuck around
I
it.
have always loved the word defenestrating.
Oh, it's a
So-
great word, yeah.
Defenestrating.
Defenestrating.
That's what
Yeah,
I said.
yeah, you got it.
I always get so nervous I'm going to pronounce it wrong, and then someone is
What?
going to correct
What's
me.
gonna happen? You're gonna be wrong on the internet? That's never been a problem. That's never
But
come up.
People on the internet are so
They're super
understanding.
forgiving.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. So far, the people watching our videos have actually been
They're
very
super
chill.
nice.
Yeah.
You guys are cool.
They're actually way cool.
You guys should be more mean to us. It's not fair.
Stop asking.
No,
No.
Thomas. No.
Wow, the immediate hatred I felt.
We're like, no, this is a safe
Everyone,
space.
all faces snapped towards me. No, what do you do?
Don't do that. Please love micro.
I do wanna throw out before
Uh-huh.
we kind of get into the nitty gritty of that spell.
Yep.
I think it's interesting. So they give us an example there of how it would work, which is not something that would typically show up, but I think that with like something like this specifically where you're making a homebrew and you know that you don't have all the wording and perfect to communicate it how you want to be, you
Giving
know
an
it's a
example
draft.
sometimes helps.
Yeah, so that when you're
Yeah.
looking for feedback, people can see, oh, I see what you're trying to do.
There might be a simpler way to do it.
So
Yeah, definitely.
I actually say kudos
Yeah.
for that. I think that's a good choice.
Yeah,
My
don't-
first.
Don't be afraid to put
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
We always understand a lot of the things that we look at are early drafts, or they're things that are never meant to be taken that seriously. And so we harp on wording a lot. But also, if you don't know the exact wording and it's an early draft, like throw out what you mean.
Totally.
And like
Yeah.
people will get it. They might even help with the wording. So this is a cool flavor for a spell. Like you pick them up with this big gust of air, and then they shoot off in a direction. And I like that I like the quirkiness of they have to go towards a window if one exists nearby.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a little bit dense as far as like
Yeah.
dice and mechanics and how it's all working. And there are other spells in D&D that do kind of similar things that you could probably draw from for references.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could just basically modify like telekinesis and just say essentially what's happening is you're casting telekinesis and throwing someone X feet, which telekinesis already has like a clause.
Right.
Just get rid of all of the
Right.
other parts about telekinesis.
Yeah.
And just keep-
Replace some bits of telekinesis with the air
Mhm.
vibe, but
A lot of it's in flavor text.
yeah, a lot of it is in the flavor, and then also you can do a little bit to separate it out and
I
make it
mean,
feel different.
This does remind me a little bit of the Yeetle Beetle that we
Mhm.
reviewed in the same episode that we
Yeah.
referred earlier. And you could kind of, it's the catapult spell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
catapult.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's just reflavored.
And so you could take catapult and maybe make it stronger and then add to it.
Mhm.
I think this is a great start. And
yeah.
Even just to maybe compare it to those existing spells to see how are you balanced.
And and Seething Ginger may well have done that and
Oh,
gone through
totally.
and chosen
Yeah.
bits and pieces of that. But I'm just talking about in general when you're doing spells, like that's always a good idea.
Mhm.
Is be like, what spells already exist that I can work from?
I like the idea that to me this spell feels like something that like you've always wanted to do in a campaign,
Right.
and now you can.
Yeah.
You can
Which-
force choke someone and throw them out a window.
Yeah.
But Gust just doesn't cut it.
Gus just doesn't do it for you
No.
these days. It doesn't get the same high it used to.
Specifically throw them out the window.
Because it just
like,
pushes
this is
them
great.
in a direction away from you.
Wind wall doesn't help anymore.
well, and yeah,
Gotta
I mean,
get the fix.
that is a thing. If you are wanting to do homebrews and you don't know where to start, there's always that moment where you're like, oh, I just really wish that I could do this thing.
So do
Yeah.
that, man.
Find a way to make it
Find
happen.
a way,
Although
tweak
sometimes
it.
you're like, I really wish that I could just kill a dragon by looking at it. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's
No,
not a thing you
Power
should be
word
able
kill.
to do.
there you go. Power word kill.
Yeah.
Just be a
Basilisk.
basilisk. There you go. Turn to stone. Yeah. the thing that I wanted to say about it was I recently ran a campaign in which I had a hill giant. The party fought a hill giant. Hill giants in the monster stat block have an attack that's they throw a boulder, and it does X amount of bludgeoning damage, and it has a range of X feet. I don't remember the specifics right now. But the hill giant, you see, picked up a party member and threw them at a wall. And so the quickest and easiest table ruling that I came up with was it is as if the boulder attack has happened against them. So the same damage from the boulder attack applied against them is that they just get thrown instead of having to like check the rules on the strength of the hill giant. I just treated like you're just a boulder now, so the range of the boulder throw attack is the range that he threw you.
Yeah.
I mean, you basically, if the boulder is damaging you, you could say that the boulder is also taking that same amount of damage. So if you,
Yeah.
And so you're the boulder now, and we're throwing you. It's going to kind of be the same if you hit like a wall or something. And I think that kind of like reverse thinking might apply to this. There's a couple of spells that are like hit somebody with a big wall or deal a bunch of force damage by hitting someone with a boulder, things like that. And if it's the opposite, where you're just throwing them into a wall, you can kind of reverse engineer it from that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that they're saying is that, like, it kind of doesn't matter how many... I almost wish that it was just a bit consistent, that, like, because it's like, it could throw you a random distance of feet, and then you sort of take a weird amount of damage depending on how many feet you were thrown. I almost just wish it was like, you are thrown this amount of feet. If there is an obstacle, and you take this amount of damage. If there's an obstacle, you hit it, but you still take that same amount of damage.
Now, it could be argued, though, that the reason why it's so variable is they're trying to potentially capture, like, the chaotic and whimsical nature of wind,
already,
in that it just randomly does stuff.
Already looking through a couple of these other spells, there is definitely a nature of like RNG with the which is like random number generator. So there's always a chance of like chaos with each of these spells that I think is part of Seething Ginger's attempt at like the flavor of wind, of gust,
and I guess that's fair.
Swirling kind of like maelstrom.
But it is a little but in 5th edition, usually it is pretty crisp.
You want to streamline it where you always know exactly how much dice you're rolling. Yeah, that kind of stuff. For sure.
Yeah. So let's move on to the main one, the meat of this, where there's a lot to discuss here.
The air meat.
Arctic Tempest. So there's a lot of text here that we're gonna go through and discuss.
Let's go through.
Talk about balancing.
Buckle up.
Buckle in,
folks. So this is 9th level conjuration, boys.
Okay, this is on the level
of... These are the big boys.
You have to sell me on why I should cast this instead of Wish. Go.
Yeah, honestly.
Bless you.
Casting time of 1 action, range, sight. Components VSM, a blown glass orb filled with oil and chips of porcelain. Concentration up to 1 minute. So you summon the great power of the Arctic storms, freezing and burying your enemies. Cold gray clouds gather around a point you can see, spreading out to radius of 300 feet. Howling cold biting winds and freezing gales pound everything in the radius. Each round you concentrate on the storm, it intensifies until it ends. The effects of the storm are cumulative, so that each round a creature in the storm suffers all effects from the previous rounds as well.
Ooh,
so my question right away is, what happens if you have cast this spell outside of combat?
Because it's rounds.
I mean,
yeah, you'd have to do some sort of.
I guess you would just have to. If this spell is cast,
you're probably entering combat.
I'll give you a hint. That's why the player's handbook never references rounds, because all spells can be cast outside of combat. So they always reference minutes or seconds or whatever. That's why
you'd say like
concentration
every 6
up to 1 minute. So you'd have to say something like every 6 seconds, every 10 seconds, whatever it would be. But for now, we get what you mean, though.
Yeah. For now, we get it.
If a creature starts its turn in the spell's area and is concentrating on a spell, the creature must make a successful concentration check against your spell save DC or lose concentration.
Okay.
So round 1.
Okay, wait. Before we go on to each individual rounds, I want to say this is great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We talked last time, we referenced Seething Ginger's spells. When we were talking about the Avalanche spell, I said, like, stacking exhaustion's not the medium you want to be painting in. This, like, I've never seen a spell that works like this in this sort of a way, and I love this medium to paint in of. The longer you stay on the spell, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and if you get knocked out of concentration, you lose it. But if you choose to, can dedicate every turn to just swelling the power of the spell. I'm super into that.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go. No.
That feels so, like, cartoon in a good way, where it's like where your wizard is on the battlefield and they're growing their area spell, and the winds are howling louder and louder, and the fighters are protecting them, and they're like, I need 1 more minute as the spell's growing to its full fruition.
That's so sweet.
That's really dope.
It's a great kind of cool way of balancing a spell that is concentration. Like, the longer you concentrate on having it, the better it gets.
That's so fun.
I like that.
That's good. Honestly, I mean,
It's
I
very
guess
similar to Control Weather, which is an 8th level spell, but it doesn't do like damage and stuff. You can just slowly over time, just every turn, change the weather of what's going on.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason that doesn't come up more is because the mechanics of dealing with something that changes over time, that is more wordy, and you have to deal with that more, but it is really cool.
Just doing a
great
quick,
idea, Seething Ginger. We love it.
Doing a quick glance over, I can already tell that probably it'll just, like, if this was written in the player's handbook in 5th edition, this is just too dense. And in the player's handbook, each round would have a, like, 10-word, 1-sentence thing that occurs. And it would just be, like, as a DM, you would not have to keep rereading these paragraphs to understand what they do. Yeah.
So I want to go through it and then give our suggestions of how we would streamline it.
Sure. Let's go.
So round 1, blasts of howling cold fill the area, chilling creatures to the bone and hampering movement. Creatures entering the spell's area for the first time or starting their turn in the spell's area and not inside of a building or similar shelter must make a Constitution saving throw. If it fails, the creature takes the 3d6 cold damage, and that creature becomes impeded by the wind, and its speed is reduced to half.
Okay.
I mean, sort of what you just said. I love all the flavor of that. You gotta trim the fat on the, like, if your DM is gonna have to, or whoever's casting the spell is going to have to be like double checking it. Just basically put the only things that you need there. Put any flavor stuff in the big paragraph before.
I would say it's better to like add a sentence to that first paragraph, and just get all your flavor done there, which I think there is great flavor there already, which I think suffices.
But I also think that even mechanically speaking, like, they have to make a con save. If they fail, they take 3d6 cold damage. They are impeded by the wind, which I don't know exactly what.
Well, I think that means that their speed is reduced to half.
Okay.
Basically,
so
it becomes difficult terrain.
Cold damage and their speed is reduced to half. I think you got to pick one of those. I think if it was me, like, each round of this, we're going to be adding more and more stuff. First round, pick one thing to occur. You either take, like, damage or speed half, because every round it's cumulative, it said. Each time it keeps happening on top of itself. Does that mean your speed keeps halving?
Oh, because
like, how does that work? Do you take the damage every round?
I think the rounds accumulate on themselves, so the effect of round 1 and the effect of round 2 is happening.
No, they happen again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like they are
so that
happening.
Is tricky. So you got to think about anything you
each
include.
Each are constantly happening.
Is there a way to
so
stack
if you're a creature that stands in this doing nothing for all 10 rounds of this,
you're gonna take round 1 10 times.
Round 1 happens to you 10 times.
Okay.
So you got to think about how that's gonna function.
What were you saying, Onog? You said you thought it would be better.
I mean, like, especially too, because this could probably, like, help stop that confusion of, like, does your speed get cut in half each time, and what does that mean? It probably only means it should either say for that round kind of a thing, or just make it difficult terrain. If it's difficult terrain, then their speed is cut in half anyways.
I think that might be a good
idea.
idea.
But there might be a creature that ignores difficult terrain,
and then they'd be fine.
But there are further rounds,
and then they get to use that ability. Like I think saying, but a creature has an ability that can avoid that is sort of like, let them use it. I think you could even maybe to avoid confusion about stacking, if you're going to say it's difficult terrain, that could maybe be in the paragraph of, like, spreading out to a radius of 300 feet. And
then it just makes it difficult to
like it just is. So that's
and then round 1 just
deals,
so that isn't
cold damage. Which I think if it was going to be me, I would say cold damage. Just with round 1 is cold damage, because we haven't gotten to them yet, but none of the other ones deal damage.
So that would be our first suggestion. Is in the top paragraph, just automatically it is difficult terrain. So if you're there, if that's going on, boom, you deal with difficult terrain. You got half speed. Don't have to worry about it again.
Sure. And then round 1, you can pretty much simplify it to just a quick little sense about the damage. Round 2. Darkness descends as the clouds cover the sky and the intense precipitation begins to fall. The entire area of the spell becomes dark, in addition to the conditions above. If the creature fails its Constitution save for starting or entering the spell's area for the first time, they become blinded and deafened until the start of their next turn.
So
this is starting to feel pretty cool and spooky.
It's very cool, and I really like it. So it's the same con save, so you're not having to worry about now they're making, like, double con saves.
Right, which
is
cool.
All so now if you fail the save, you take the damage and you get blinded and deafened.
So basically you make the one con save and you get the effects of any previous rounds that are there.
I might say blinded and deafened is a bit
Harsh.
but I don't know. That might be fine. I would maybe stick with just blinded.
It's a storm. You're going to be deafened.
It's true. I would personally pick one or the other.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one I would fall on,
and
but
it is-
maybe it's fine.
It is a really powerful spell.
It is.
The
It's 9th
point
level.
is it's a hugely powerful spell.
Well, and it's a radius of 300 feet. That's huge.
Yeah, you do have to start considering, like, I mean, if every
Does this
creature,
hurt you?
if you're in it,
you choose a point that you can see, so you could theoretically not.
Oh,
be
so
in
there's
it.
no range
Its
except
range
for your
is
own vision.
Yeah,
sight.
it's just you pick a point you can see, which does exist in D&D 5e. Like there are things that say pick a point you can see.
yeah,
Honestly, I do actually. The more I'm thinking about it, I think just blinded is probably better.
or deafened. One of the I don't know.
Think,
like
I think
maybe...
both, because it wouldn't make sense that you're blinded by the storm and then not deafened by it.
I
kind
think
of
it's.
thing.
I don't hate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I think
it's probably fine.
Arguments for both.
it is one of those things where it's just like save or it's a save or suck kind of a spell for people in a 300-foot
Yeah,
radius.
for everyone. The interesting thing is that like deafened comes up way less often than blinded does.
Right.
Yeah.
So blinded is a more important like effect to put on somebody.
I think maybe if one of the later abilities was that you got blinded as well,
maybe
because
something that.
deafened is one of the earlier things. It's loud, you can't hear anything, and then as it goes on and progresses a little more, then you can get blinded.
Well,
as
But
well.
is deafened a
let-
good enough addition?
Let's
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what the other ones.
Yeah,
say.
let's keep
let's
going.
move on.
So rounds 3 through 7. So for each of these, it's
That's
just
same
4
as-
rounds.
yeah.
It's the same effect.
Snow begins to fall
5
at a
rounds.
tremendous rate, covering everything in a thick, wet blanket. 1 inch of snow accumulates per round. In addition to the effects above, if a creature fails a saving throw, they become paralyzed. Covered
Fails-
the saving
the
throw
saving.
is what you'd want to say.
Yep.
Covered in a layer of ice until they pass the saving throw at the start of their turn,
So just they're becoming covered in snow.
and taking damage, and they
take
still
damage,
can't hear
and they're
and
blinded
see.
and deafened, and they're paralyzed now.
Jeez.
They're
Louise.
not doing well. This is like you take out a freaking army.
Yeah, I dig this for
This
sure.
is like Avalanche.
I'm
like
really
I'm gonna
into
take
it.
out an
Yeah.
army, and it's
Mhm.
cool
I
as
mean,
hell.
I'm guessing that Seething Ginger is going to have a huge area effect spell that just basically destroys everyone in it for each element. Like you call
Yeah.
upon a storm.
Yeah, this is the air
that is
avalanche.
akin to that element. So you got
Totally.
Avalanche for this. You have Arctic Tempest for air. I'm guessing there's going to be like
Yeah,
rock
dude.
slide or earthquake.
Yeah,
or,
yeah, for sure.
You know,
Definitely.
whatever
Yeah.
for.
I think this rounds 3 through 7, great. I wouldn't
I
even
love
change
it.
the wording.
I
I
would
don't
like
wanna
to
touch it.
actually just submit the spell quicksand, and it's just everything is quicksand, no matter
Earth.
what.
I want to submit the spell. The floor is lava.
So far, I really like this spell,
Mhm.
and part of it, I think, kind of becomes is for the people caught in the spell. The game is get to the caster,
Yeah.
and so all these
Yeah.
things that
Or-
slow them down and damage them
You-
at the same time.
you
I
can
really
be-
like
you
that.
can
spell.
be in a shelter.
To picture.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, if you're in shelter, you do not have to make the saving throw.
Yeah, if you're in a house.
So the game is now get
Get in a
inside
house.
or,
Or find who's
get the
doing
wizard.
this.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
is sweet.
Which they could be far away.
Spells that direct gameplay. I just did like the Italian chef. Mwah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like get
Yeah.
your Gandalf to counteract the
It
Sauron
could
stuff
be cool
going on.
Yeah.
if maybe if you have a spell that could generate fire that you can keep with you, that maybe it can stave off the effects of the spell slightly and
Oof.
could buy you more time.
That'd be cool. That'd be
But
a
it
complex
is- That's a lot of
systemic.
words.
Yeah.
It is more to work.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
I think
What's the last
if
one?
something like that came up, that'd just be like a DM table ruling kind
Yeah.
of
And
situation.
I don't know how I feel about the effect being paralyzed, but
I was actually just considering that. I was wondering about maybe like
Restrained.
restrained. About
I
like
think
you're so
that's-
encumbered by snow and ice that you like because restrained you just can't move, but you can take other actions.
yeah,
I think
paralyzed
restrained
is you
is
just
better.
can't take action.
Yeah.
You just are
Yeah.
freezing to death.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Restrained, 'cause
Restrained.
Then while you're restrained, you could do something like you could take out your tent and or like,
And like still like
try-
try and set it up as you're
you
freezing
could
to
or
death.
Right.
you could attack someone. Like
Yeah,
you could still, do all
have
those
your
things.
bow and your like legs are freezing to the ground and you're not able to move anymore, but you're able to get your bow shot off at the Saruman standing on like a rooftop, and maybe
Yeah.
that's the shot that stops the storm.
Well, and that's
Stops
the
the storm.
thing about like balancing stuff in D&D. Why I fully agree that it would be better to be restrained because it gives them a little bit more of a chance. And it's this weird thing where even when you're like a level 20 wizard who's got this level 9 spell, it's not fun anymore
If
if
you
they
don't
can't
have a
fight
chance.
back at all. Like
Yeah.
it's only fun
It's
when
not
you
fun for
still
you
give
casting
them a
it, and it's
sliver
not
of
fun
hope.
for the people in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
It's-
it's more fun for you if they have a chance.
Hyper overpowered stuff is really fun to cast, but the thing about spells is as soon as you introduce a spell in your world, you should be thinking that
What if
other
someone did this
other
on me?
wizards should have
I
this
mean,
spell.
I kind of said this for
The big bad
Avalanche.
could cast this.
I said this for Avalanche as
Same
well.
thing.
All right, and rounds 8 through 10, this is the final level. of this. A layer of freezing precipitation falls, encrusting everything in ice. Movement is hampered such that a creature within the spell's area must spend 5 feet of movement to move 1 foot. Non-magical fires are extinguished, and damage from fires is reduced by half.
Ooh.
But you're paralyzed, though.
So how could you
So
move
you
in the
can't
first
move
place?
5 feet.
Well, no, it doesn't say even if you pass the saving throw
Now you can't
and you're
move.
not paralyzed.
Oh, because
Because
it doesn't say
you're
unless you pass.
trudging
You,
through
you,
the
may,
snow.
you may
Got
have
it.
passed the saving throw and still be in the storm.
I
So if you
forgot-
have
I-
a 30-foot
yeah,
movement
yeah.
speed, you can literally move 1 square.
I wasn't realizing that this
Yeah.
is even if you pass. Totally. Okay, then yeah, that's cool. I like it. I do think to trim this, you can honestly take out those first flavor sentences on all of these.
Mhm.
Like, because we get like
Wait, you have to read the last sentence.
Oh, a creature killed by this spell becomes a frozen statue until it thaws, which is so cool.
Ugh.
It
but
clears
also-
and there's a battlefield of like frozen soldiers, like
Terracotta warrior.
But also,
Yeah.
Seething Ginger, we talked about this. It's frozen until it isn't. You don't need to tell me that, man. You just say it's a frozen statue. It's permanent until it isn't. We talked about that.
I don't mind it's frozen until it thaws because
They just
They
become a
that's not
statue
a
of ice.
permanent effect.
You, as a DM, you know that ice melts. It doesn't say magical ice. It's fine. I'm just ragging on Seething Ginger to give him a hard time.
I will say though, while I do think that it should be trimmed down because it even is a little bit redundant, I think, to give these flavored text lines every time about the precipitation.
it's cool.
And you could trim it down a bit. It's gonna
be cold. You know it.
Well, and this is gonna be a chonky spell on the page. This is just going to take up a lot of space. And I think if you're gonna have a spell that's long and a lot of text to read, make it 9th level. Like make it be your 9th level
Yeah, it
spell.
is, and that's fair.
Yeah, and so I'm not like offended that it's long by any means.
No, I agree. That's fine. It's fine to be long and to be complicated. 9th level spells should have a lot going on to
Yep.
feel worth it.
I do think this is cool enough to be 9th level, which kudos.
Yeah,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah, that's-
But like overall, trim the fat and the flavor is super cool and it's sad to lose, but just make it so that when you're looking at the round things, that the only information that is listed is the only
the one that you
information
need.
that you would need to repeat
Yeah,
to
that
anyone
they can
else.
glance at it and know
Your
everything
DM
they're
needs to look
rolling.
at this every time that they're rolling at the start of every single monster's turn. So they're going to need to be able to quick access the information, not read through descriptive text, which is great. I love descriptive text.
And that last line of a creature killed by the spell becomes a frozen statue until it falls. Does there need to be like unless it drops to 0 hit point? Because you could just die. Like you're taking damage every round too, so a creature could just die from this.
Well, yeah, but die. Like, dying is different than dropping to 0 hit points.
Right.
Dying is failing all your death saving throws.
Well, if they drop to 0 hit points and then 3 more rounds happen, at
Then
which
they
they
die.
like
Then
they
would.
die.
But
Yeah.
if for some reason
Unless
you
they pass their saving
fell
throw,
unconscious
all
and
unconscious.
the spell faded
I
before
guess
you truly
they
died.
could still be a frozen statue until it thaws and then their dead body slips to the ground.
Yeah, it's true.
So
There's, I mean, in the player's handbook, it references like falling to 0 hit points and making death saving throws is normally reserved for player characters.
Yeah,
if it's
typically
a monster and
NPCs
it hits
just
0,
die.
it is dead. But your DM always has discretion to say this dragon is making death saving throws. Like it's not fully dead yet, and there's a chance it can come back. Or to say that goblin it went to 0, I'm not going to worry about it. Anymore, you know.
you're not gonna make death saving
And there are
throws for
some
the entire
creatures-
like army that you're fighting.
Yeah.
And there's some creatures with regenerative abilities that specifically say if this doesn't happen when they die, they just get back up.
Yep.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, my only real like concerns, critiques, review of it, the little bit about making the first round more tight, probably taking off that, like having your speed stuff and just making it about difficult terrain.
Yeah.
Maybe finding a way to figure out the blindness and deafness a bit. Maybe you even just say that it's like the area is filled with non-magical darkness. And then that'll just affect creatures in it
If they have
based
dark
on
vision,
dark
they have
vision
dark
or
vision.
not.
And
Like,
if
no,
they have
no,
dark
yeah.
vision, then they can only see 60 feet away
Yeah,
from
they
them.
can
And
only
if
see
you're
60
a
feet.
mile away on a mountain,
I
they're
mean,
not going to know where you are.
Yeah,
True.
you could also say that it is like blustery and foggy enough that it is the same effects as
Or
like being
the
in a-
area is heavily obscured.
It's like
it could be
heavily-
magical darkness.
it's,
Yeah.
or like a thick fog. You know, like that's a
Cast
thing that
magic,
you
cast
deal with.
darkness on a 300-foot radius.
That's
Oh,
that's
boy.
cool though.
You're gonna need some devil sight, my dudes.
That's, no, that's the ninth.
That's like a 9th level shadow wizard
yeah,
spell
that's
right
the ninth
there.
level ability
Is-
for Wizards of Light and Shadow.
Yeah.
Usador, Wizards of the 12th Realm
Shadow.
of Ephesius, Master of Light and Shadow, Manipulator of Magical Delights, Devourer of Chaos, champion of the great halls of Tarakas. The elves know me as Fian Yalak, the dwarves know me as Zonin Hugastanges, and I am known in the northeast as Gasmuenius Maystar, and I have other gnomes that you do not know yet.
What are
Their
the
names of such power.
what do the bakers call you?
Biscuit meniscus.
You knew that off the top of your head.
Yeah.
I'm known to the fairies as Papa Mache.
The blades of grass call me Johnny Downstreet.
That is that. These are all Hello from the Magic Tavern references.
I'm sure you all know.
Some people
Hello
know
from
me
the
as
very good.
Bagel me fingies.
Bagels. Some people know me as
Billy Yum Yum 2x2.
The wedding planners.
That's one of the human
That's
names.
one of the human
Yeah.
names from Earth.
What do the
But
wedding
doesn't he
planners know?
choose that as a
Dave.
name at some point?
Yeah. No, Dale Sprinkle Sleeves.
Okay, Dale, not Dave,
All right,
Dave.
okay, all right, guys. I was
Speaking
halfway
of-
through my. The only other thing I would do.
Thanks for backing me up there, B.
Yeah.
The only other thing,
Appreciate it.
I think that dice should bump up to like a D8. I think 3d6 is just doesn't feel like a ninth level spell. Even if it happens every round, there's always the chance it ends after 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And you dealt
3d8.
4 damage
With a ninth
with
level
a ninth
spell.
level spell.
Yeah.
3d12. Like what? Do something.
Yeah.
Crank it.
This is a ninth level spell.
Yeah.
Like if it goes long, if you're on round 7, like that's insane. That's better than any other
Yeah.
spell damage wise.
Most
But you
fights-
know, it probably won't.
And just keep in mind, most major fights, including big ones, hardly make it past like 4
4 or
rounds.
5, yeah. And
So-
especially if you're playing smart with either like your party's playing smart against a wizard casting this, or the DM is running the creatures smart against you casting this, they're going to start doing things like prioritizing the wizard, taking their staff away, or like
Yeah.
making like casting blindness on the wizard so they can't see it, so they can't cast the spell anymore, trying to make them make constitution saving throws for concentration. And if an entire army is trying to make you lose concentration, it's going to happen eventually. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you tick off 300 people,
Yeah, yeah.
they're going to get there.
But that makes it so much cooler. Is they're like, trying to keep it going for as long as possible.
Now,
And like half of them are paralyzed
with
or
the flavor of
restrained.
this-
or-
Sweet.
with the flavor of this, you being in a shelter, it would be cool if there's like the evil wizard up in the tower, and then the army's coming and they cast
You
it
have to, like,
from
take
the
cover.
tower.
That's cool.
And then they're in the
They're in
shelter, so they're
cover.
fine. But everyone else, like, there's just this huge storm centered.
Yeah,
And they're trying
almost
to
like
get
a,
to the
like
tower.
a
That's
lightning
rad.
rod,
Yeah,
you know?
that's sweet.
That'd be a
Love
fun.
that.
I'm stealing that encounter.
All right, we're
I think,
using that encounter.
as a
I
quick,
just killed us.
yeah, that's actually very cool. As
Goodbye.
a quick summary for Seething Ginger. So I think for round 1, what we're thinking is.
Oh, wait. Sorry. One final piece
Yep.
of feedback.
Final
Yep.
I really think that it could benefit from how many abilities are there? 4?
Yep.
I mean, man, I don't know. It might just be rounds 1 to 4, and then from 4 on, it's the same every time. Like, I don't know why we need to start spacing out, like, 3 to
Yeah.
7 is all the same.
Because it just keeps
Yep.
cycling.
Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't just be like, maybe you split a couple of these up and it's like 5 rounds.
Well,
but after 5, it's just 5 over and over
Combat
again.
usually does not last that long.
Exactly, that's what I'm
And
saying.
you want to do the whole spell.
You
so,
wanna feel
yeah,
like you got
1
the
through
spell
4.
out, but
That's
also-
good feedback.
But I don't know, maybe that is too
Especially if
strong.
you're doing
Maybe if it's
3d8 or-
guaranteed 1 to 4, that's too strong.
Not if it's 3d6 though. Maybe,
Maybe
you
not
know,
if
maybe
3d6.
you bounce it
So maybe
that
it's
way.
every other round you do like the 1st and 2nd round, and then the 3rd and 4th round.
But then you have to
Whatever,
start doing math.
something. I don't know.
Math is
Yeah.
hard.
I'm just saying, I think 10 rounds might be a little long. You might never get there.
Yeah.
Very-
Usually combat's like 6 rounds, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
so I do just want to do a quick summary for Seething Ginger and
Okay.
for all our listeners here. So for round 1, we're thinking it's the damage. And then for round 2, I like the idea of just saying it becomes dark, and then if you fail that initial constitution save, you also become deafened
Mhm.
until the start of the next turn.
I like that.
I like
and that way
combo.
you
It
balance
is dark
it.
no
Yeah.
matter
So
what.
humans are blinded, but
Elves aren't, you know.
elves are limited in their vision range.
And then
so
it just simplifies
And
that.
whether it's dark or if it's just that it's so stormy that like the vision is obscured in some kind
Yeah,
of
but the
way.
mechanic for that would be good, just to say
Yeah.
like
It's
it
the
creates
simplest.
non-magical darkness,
Yeah.
because that way it fits into all the like vision
Yep.
mechanics.
And then for the third one,
restrained
I think
instead
you
of
just say
paralyzed.
restrained.
instead of paralyzed.
it's just restrained again if they pass the saving throw instead of a. You want to
So that
specify
the
that.
players still can do something to
Yes.
save
They have a
themselves.
Because that's more exciting, especially if you're the one having it cast on you.
Yep.
Yep.
And then for the last one, I like the idea of it just being so hard to move through it. Non-magical fires are extinguished.
Like,
so if
I don't
you
think we
were-
have to change that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
was
I
great.
think
That was good.
that's great. I like the
And
last
then
one a lot.
just make it rounds 1 through 4.
I
and
think
then
so, yeah.
In the flavor text at the beginning, to get the half speed, just say that there's automatically difficult terrain. Then
that's just a thing.
that's
just
established.
happening.
Boom, you're
Yeah.
good.
And
And
I
this-
think that streamlines it.
Yeah, this is getting a little prescriptive, but yeah, these are I think these are all great ideas for this.
Yeah, and I want to say, of course...
And you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, we are being prescriptive here. Seething Ginger, ignore all of that if you want to. This is sort of us homebrewing the homebrew here, of saying this is how we personally
also,
would do it.
If you don't take all of our advice one-to-one, we'll never talk to you again.
That's not true.
No, we don't. I mentioned this to somebody who was like, you guys seem to know so much about reviews. Give me your feedback. We don't know any more than anyone else, guys. Feel free to ignore anything we say. We probably have some horrible ideas.
I know everything.
Yeah,
Well, and
Onog knows everything, but besides that...
I do want to say, like, our goal here is to, the way that we're all brainstorming with each other, we want to brainstorm with you. So you can take or leave whatever we say. We know that we may be wrong.
Well, and honestly... Like us, it's just that we kind of say stuff with confidence, and we're just like, this is what we think is cool, and you know what? Have confidence in what you're making. Don't be so nervous about, like, people liking it or not liking it. The only way you're going to be able to get your stuff out there or be able to use it is if you just do it. Have confidence in your abilities. Know what you want, and just go for it.
If we ever say, that's too strong, and you're like, I wanted it to be too strong, cool, man.
Then
like,
you're,
you
then
do you. Sweet.
Right.
That's awesome.
Then good job. So in summary, I wish we had time to go through all of them, but we don't. These are all really good, though, and I wish I could. So please go check it out for yourself. You can find Seething Ginger stuff on Reddit. You can also go ahead and follow them on Instagram. It's the same username, seething_ginger. They make great stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mercy.
Looking forward to the other elemental stuff.
I'll check them out personally for sure.
It was good to do like a nice, real in-depth, like brainstorm session there. I liked that a lot. All right, which means it's time for the final homebrew of the episode. Don't worry, we're almost there.
Don't make more musical
this entrance music.
Every time we're gonna get muted by YouTube so fast. We always.
You think my singing is that good that I sound like a straight up recording?
You sound like several trumpets.
You sounded exactly like the band Europe. I thought they were here in the inn with us.
Oh, look, it's Europe here in the inn with us.
Oh, Grover, you're singing lead for Europe?
Oh, no.
All right, no, we're not.
Grover is banished.
Grover is still in another plane of existence from the banishment spell. All right, I have brought a homebrew Warlock Patron that is...
Patron, that's cool.
Perfectly balanced.
No.
Oh, no!
As all things should be.
No.
Are you burdened with glorious purpose? Do you desire to save the universe by destroying half of all life? I've got the Warlock Patron for you. The Cosmic Gems.
Oh,
yeah.
You see,
it is
it's
not Big Purple Bald Man.
No, you would be the big purple bald man, and these would be your
thumb in
patron
this
that you
scenario.
must fulfill their inner desire.
Okay.
All right, I'm on board. Let's go.
You are the angry thumb.
Yes. You are a badly sunburned Bruce Willis.
Hey, that CG was state of the art.
No, that was
It was actually really cool.
All right, so it's the Cosmic Gems, which is it is a little bit weird that it's the gems themselves, but I like it.
I mean, that's what you worship.
I also
No,
appreciate
it's the cosmic power they have, the conglomeration.
They're a being of their own.
Well,
race.
because the
It's
Silver
just-
Surfer hasn't technically been merged with the rest of it, so it's just
It's just Gamora inside.
Everything. So yeah, the Cosmic Gems, which is just not the Infinity Stones, the legally distinct from Infinity Stones. The patron that you are beholden to is highly unusual in nature. Rather than a specific entity, you are granted power from a cluster of sentient cosmic crystals that travel throughout the universe. These cosmic gems embody the forces that drive the very fabric of the universe, such as space, time, reality, power, soul, mind, maybe.
Etc.
It says etc., but I mean, Shawarma is the secret gem, yes.
The 7th gem.
So you get an expended spell list. At first level, you get Absorb Elements, Burning Hands. Second level, Scorching Ray, Moonbeam. Third level, Protection from Energy, Lightning Bolt. Fourth level, Fabricate, Dimension Door. Fifth level, Teleportation Circle, and Seeming.
Okay, so as you get more gems...
Yeah, theoretically,
you
juice up. Those are fine. I feel like you could almost throw in, like, any expanded spells there. There's none...
Wish should be like the ultimate.
There's none that are...
level wish.
There's none that are specifically, like, on flavor enough. Like, these are all great, and I think those are fine. Starting at first level, you get the ability Universal Channeler, or Universal Channel. The Cosmic Gems allow you to tap into a fraction of their immense power. I'm like at 10%.
I was going to say, are these actually just Shaggy?
No, that's a different patron I'll bring another time. Whenever you expend a spell slot, you deal force damage equal to the spell slot's level on your next attack.
Ooh. What?
So if you expend a second level spell slot, you deal 2 force damage on your next attack.
If you make an attack.
Because you like charged up.
On your next attack.
So
Whether
do they
it's a spell
stack
or
if
melee.
you
So it
just
doesn't
start
matter,
blasting
like-
spells?
I think so. I think
Wait,
they
no,
stack,
it's-
and there's no time limit.
Wait,
so...
why would it stack? It's just each one is
No,
is
no,
from
no.
the
No,
one
if you
before.
cast 2 second-level spells that are neither attacks...
Well, it says attack.
Yeah.
But not a
Oh,
spell.
So
oh,
if you
got
cast
it.
2
You're like,
second-level spells in a row, neither of which are an attack, your next Eldritch Blast will
Totally.
deal 4
Okay.
You
force
cast
damage.
minor illusion a couple times.
Yeah, I
Yep.
get it. I get it. Okay.
Additionally, when you
Minor
reach...
illusion's a cantrip, but
Oh, gee, I meant silent image.
yeah,
Silent image.
Frickin'
Additionally, when you reach 10th level, you may... How dare you not memorize every Warlock spell in their level? When you reach 10th level, you may add your Charisma modifier to the additional force damage. That's at 10th level, so I mean, we're getting into
So,
upper
but-
echelons
Those are
anyway.
stacking.
But if you took
You're at what?
agonizing blast, you're cleaning up house.
At 10th level, what are your spell slots? for
10th
wizard.
level. They cast
For
at the
warlock.
same rate at wizards, but they have different amount of spell lists. So at 10th level they would have 5th level spells.
Okay, so so you'd be adding 5 damage from your 5th level spells, plus
5 from your
probably
charisma.
5 from your charisma.
And then if it's agonizing blast, another 5 from your charisma.
so just a guaranteed 15 on top of
Just
whatever you
crunching
roll.
away 15
Yikes.
damage on somebody.
Dude, I'm into it. Celestial Retribution. Starting at 6th level, whenever a creature succeeds on a saving throw against a spell you cast using a Warlock spell slot, so if they succeed on a throw against you, you can, as a reaction, cause the creature to take force damage equal to your level and be pushed back 15
So
feet.
it's just a lot of blasting.
Oh, this is a blasty boy, let me tell ya. We're gonna get into it.
It's like if you didn't already like blasting
If you
as
didn't
a
already
warlock,
You
have-
wanted to be a damage dealer? We can talk about
I use
that.
Eldritch Blast and then I
With
Blast
the pushback
again.
of the blast, and then it blasts, and then it blasts and push.
But also, I do want to say that, like, for the flavor of, like, Thanos from the Avengers, one of his, like, #1 things is he's just so powerful.
Yeah.
The Hulk can't fist fight him, you know? He's just that intense. All right, at 10th level, you have Instrument of the Cosmos. As you come closer and closer to becoming a conduit of the cosmic energy of the gems, your body strengthens.
And you get a
is-
surfboard.
Yep, and is able to withstand their power. You gain resistance to force damage,
Nice.
and you're immune to the ill effects of extreme environmental cold and heat and the vacuum of space.
Yeah.
Does that mean you could go inside a bag of holding?
No, they're not
Or-
space.
Well, no.
I would
bag
argue
the reason
yes.
you
There's
die,
just no
the reason you
air,
die in
yeah.
bag of holding is
You
because you
asphyxiate.
run out of air too
Which
fast.
is, this is just saying you can survive in the vacuum of space from the conditions. You still have to hold your breath.
But it's not like you,
But you won't
freeze
pop
to
if
death.
you-
Yeah, you won't have
Well,
your
you don't
like
actually do that, but
blood
you, like,
vessels
freeze to death
expand and die or
that's-
whatever. Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, your blood vessels in your body.
But let me
won't
tell you,
pop.
not enough D&D campaigns take you to the vacuum of space.
Which is really
Hey,
an
if you guys keep going
oversight.
in mine,
Oh, we
That's-
could get there.
That's not a fault
Keep
of
going.
whoever made this. That's a fault of D&D.
Yeah, D&D.
Yeah, DMs everywhere.
Where's the
Get
5th
to
edition?
space!
Where's the 5th edition Spelljammer, Mike Merles? Where's the 5th edition Spelljammer? Cosmic Overlord, finally upon reaching 14th level, you have finally become a perfect channel for the great power that the cosmic gems have bestowed upon you. You no longer age, and cannot be magically aged. Additionally, as an action, you can summon forth a meteor shower, like you grab the moon per se, and bring it down, to strike a 25-foot radius centered on a point you can see within 120 feet of you. All creatures within the radius make a dexterity saving throw, taking 15d6 magical bludgeoning damage, and being knocked prone on a failed save, taking half as much and not being knocked prone on a successful save. This ability also damages objects and such in the area. Objects and such, you know? Once you use this feature,
Stuff and things.
you can't do so until you finish a long rest.
Well, I'm glad.
Don't worry, guys. You can only cast Meteor Shower for free once per day.
Yikes.
It's no big deal.
Wow.
It's not quite Meteor Shower, but it's not Meteor
It's-
Shower.
It
I'll
says
tell you
the
that.
word meteor.
So that's all of the class abilities, or the
Wow.
subclass abilities that come from this. There are also a couple of interesting bits here. So there's an additional Pact boon. Instead of Pact of the Chain, Pact of the Tome, or Pact of the Blade, Pact of the Gem. Your patron grants you a mystical jewel. You can use this jewel as a spellcasting focus. Additionally, your spell save DC and your spell attack modifier both increase by 1. If you lose your gem, you can perform a 1-hour ceremony to receive a replacement from your patron. The ceremony can be performed during a short rest and it destroys the previous gem. The gem shatters when you die.
So it's a little like Tome,
It's
kind of
but with just instead of extra spells, you get accuracy and damage.
accuracy and damage, which is you're a blaster. So that's what you're looking for.
You're blasting.
You're a damage person. And then there's a series of Eldritch Invocations.
Oh boy.
I will not read all of them, but I want to give you guys the idea. There is one for each gem. There's a space one,
Got
there's a
it.
mind one, there's a soul one. So I'll give you an example. So the space one is Cosmic Travel. As an action, you may transport yourself and any other creatures of your choice within 30 feet of you to a point of your choosing within 1 mile of where you currently are. The chosen location must be one you have already visited. You can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So you could picture yourself opening, let's say, a blue portal or something, like a blue glowing, and then walking through it, and then being just like a purple chin man.
Oh boy.
Like a sort of Slurpee Homer.
Guys, all of these knockoff Thanoses are such a good... Oh, man, that's so good. There's also additionally...
Wait, we're talking about Thanos?
No. It's very different.
Okay.
Yeah. This
Similar
is-
to, but legally
I
distinct.
feel like you make a Thanos Pez container where the whole
Thumb.
thing was his chin.
Thombus is his name.
Thombus?
Thumbus.
Thombus.
Thumbus, owned by Michael the House Squirrel.
There's an additional Pact of the Chain familiar added to your spell list. It is an arcane jewel. It is a tiny construct. It's neutrally aligned. It has 14 armor class, 16 hit points, and a fly speed of 30 feet. Hover.
Ooh.
It's just a gem that flies around with you as your Pact of the Chain familiar. It has magical resistance.
Wow.
It doesn't need to eat, drink, or breathe, and it has the action Astral Beam, ranged spell attack.
It's just a floaty laser crystal.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's a
I'm
little...
picturing like a Destiny ghost.
Yeah, pretty much like a Destiny.
Yeah, I was
Ghost.
gonna say, or I mean, I wish I actually knew the wording for this, but like the robots in Halo that can be like the
Yep.
little
Oh,
ones that,
Guilty
like,
Spark.
yeah, that fly around and they
Monitors.
shoot lasers at people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The grandfathers of the Destiny ghosts.
The grandfathers of the Destiny Ghosts. Exactly, yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that's the Eldritch Patron, the Warlock Patron, Otherworldly Patron, Cosmic Gems.
Very fun.
Okay.
Okay, interesting.
The creator had also once mentioned possibly some sort of magical gauntlet artifact that you could gain
okay,
later on as maybe a Pact of the Blade.
Like kind of a switch on that.
Yeah.
I do like the blaster caster kind of aspects of it, but like you said, like Thanos can go toe to toe with the Hulk. This guy's still just as squishy as any other. There's just as squishy as any other warlock, and I don't know, like not to say like the Hexblade is the answer to everything, but the Hexblade is much tougher than this guy.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
at range, this guy's amazing. He can take anybody out at
And
range.
I guess the question I have is, are you trying to make a Thanos basically like, are you trying to make Thanos, or are you just trying to make someone that follows the drive of the Infinity Stones?
I think that's the idea. You're
Okay,
not
well,
being
yeah.
Thanos.
Well, and
Fair
that-
enough.
and that's the
I guess
thing.
that could be fixed in your race.
Yeah.
You're just a Goliath.
Well, and that's what we
That's true.
talked about in the Sekiro episode, episode 8. We discussed how there's a difference when you're trying to make a character like a homebrew based on
One-to-one.
something existing,
Yeah.
where it's like Thanos is meant to fight an adventuring party. Like Thanos is literally a big bad
Yeah,
who
he's
goes
something
against a
you put
whole
in a
party.
He's something you put in a monster style
Right.
block.
So it's like if you have that as a character, you kind of do have to choose aspects of him, because if you take all of it, it's OP. You know?
Yeah.
So
Right.
so saying like, okay, he's not going to be the toughest boy, but he's mega powerful. Like, you know.
Key easy boss strats for if you have to fight a Thanos in your campaign. Just cast Enlarge Reduce a couple of times on one of your party members till they're really small. Then
No, we're not doing this.
Great. Okay.
home, Thomas.
I'm trying to.
Also, multiple
Cutting you
instances
off.
of the same spell do not stack.
I know.
They would have to be a hobbit.
Ooh.
Oh no, not me.
Look, Bean, you gotta do
Wait.
it for the team.
No.
It would be a druid who takes the form of an ant, and then you cast a reduce on them.
No.
There we go. We got there.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. All right, folks. That's the episode. Thank you for listening.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
If this
We're
is-
sorry.
If this is the first episode you're hearing, we highly recommend you listen to some of our other episodes. They'll probably be just as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, they're all the
definitely.
same quality.
Yeah, sorry.
No, we should steal the drawfee and just apologize every episode. We're so sorry for what we've put you all through. But with that, we will end the episode there. We want to thank all the creators for the work that we've reviewed today. And we want to remind you, our listeners, that you can send homebrews that you found to our email, thecopperfoxin@gmail.com. Or you can now send it to us on Twitter at the Copper Fox Inn. We're really excited that we're on Twitter now. Send us weird stuff. Send us D&D memes. We love that kind of stuff.
We do love that stuff.
And we're excited to see what you guys can send to us. We've had a couple of users send things in already, and we're excited to see what else the community can show us.
Yeah, and if you like what we do, we put out new episodes every Thursday afternoon. So go ahead and subscribe for more of this.
And don't forget, if you send us stuff, you have to include a haiku.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's a rule.
Yeah. Also, you have to send us all of your drawings of half zombie clothes.
Absolutely.
They must be submitted in crayon.
And he has to have a horrible sort of anglerfish underneath the ground with a hand rising up from its head.
Yep.
All right. Well, keep on adventuring. We'll see you next week.